Hi, we are already halfway through May, which means we're already halfway through Mental Healthathon, which is a mental health readathon hosted by Nicole over at A Beautiful Chaos of Books. I'll link it below in case you haven't heard of that one yet. But what I thought I would do is do a very quick recap of the books that I have read so far for this readathon. Because I've read some really great books, and I was thinking if some people still aren't sure on what they want to read for this challenge, then they might get some ideas from this. And the first book that I'm going to tell you about is The Million Pieces of Nina Gill by Emma Smith Barton. This is actually the group book for the readathon, and Nicole chose this one. I have to say it was an absolutely fantastic choice. I think I was kind of expecting it to be okay before I went in, and then at first it kind of gets off to a little bit of a slow start, but what it does is it builds the kind of background information and the kind of situation that Nina finds herself in, so that we can then understand later on why her mental health deteriorates. I thought this was absolutely brilliant. I gave it 4 stars. We follow Nina, who is 15. She's in her last year at high school, preparing to do her GCSEs. So she's got that kind of exam pressure, leaving school kind of pressure. She's also holding down a part-time job, so that adds a little bit of extra stress. And she has got a secret boyfriend. Now, this boyfriend is secret because Nina is actually British Pakistani, and her family are quite reserved and quite, well, she thinks that they're quite traditional in the, kind of Pakistani culture. So she is hiding the fact that she's got an English boyfriend, so that adds a lot of stress as well. But the main factor that affects Nina's mental health is the fact that her brother disappeared, and she's just got no idea what's going on, when he's going to be back. And he was actually really key to her and her life, not just as her brother, but as a kind of support network type thing, because Nina's always struggled with anxiety, and he has helped her through the difficult times as she's grown up. So she really has relied on him a lot, and all of a sudden he's gone missing out of her life, so she's lost that support. And she ends up kind of making friends with people that she wouldn't normally have been friends with. So she goes out partying a lot and drinking, smoking, all things that her parents obviously wouldn't want her to be doing, especially as a 15-year-old girl. So there's all these kind of factors coming into Nina's life that add extra stress and extra pressure, and she's trying to keep up with every aspect of her life. And it's no wonder that her mental health deteriorates. So there is anxiety rep in this one, but Nina also does end up having a psychotic episode, and that's dealt with. I think from my experience of working with teenagers with psychosis and other enduring mental health problems, I would say that that's written very well in this book. It's very believable. If a patient would have come to me in that situation, I would have believed it. I would have thought it had happened. So it is a really, really good book for that kind of mental health representation. And then I also read The Prison Doctor by Dr. Amanda Brown. Now this one, I read this for the prompt where we had to read a book with green on the cover. It's obviously not completely mental health focused, but understandably Dr. Amanda Brown does come across all kinds of cases of mental health issues during her career. She does deal with lots of like self-harm, depression, anxiety, that kinds of things. I think she also deals with psychosis or schizophrenia at one point. I would say it's probably very representative of her career as a prison doctor. I don't think you would get much information with regards to mental health out of it. I think it's just, it's more insightful into prison life rather than actual mental health. But if we're not looking at it as a mental health book, just as a book to read out of interest, I gave it 4 stars. It really is fantastic. She deals with some very interesting situations, and the book starts off with a bang and continues with some really great case studies that she's, come across. Yeah, I would still read it for mental health, but more of a bit of an introduction rather than to learn something about specific mental health problems. And I did a reread of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Now, I used this for the book that has been on my TBR the longest, that represents mental health. Like I say, it's a reread. I did read this, gosh, I can't even remember. It was many years ago, and I really loved it. And so I enjoyed the reread because I didn't fully remember everything that was going to happen. When things happened, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I remember that. But going into it, I didn't actually remember much of the plot other than a basic overview. I've seen some people talking on social media about this book, and not for the Mental Healthathon, it's other people that I've seen, and they're kind of saying they don't get it. It was a bit boring. It's not very emotional, and the only thing I can say is that it's purposefully written that way. You have to go into this book thinking that you are going to view events in the book as the young boy with autism views them. Now, Christopher is a teenage boy. He has got autism, or is on the autistic spectrum, and he discovers that his neighbour's dog has died. The dog is dead in the next door neighbour's in his neighbour's garden, and it's got a gardening fork stuck in it, so it's clearly been murdered. And he then sets out to try and find out what's happened, and then other kind of events happen that are all sort of linked from information that he discovers during his investigation, and the relationships that he builds with other people and how he deals with the world. So it is written very, I think, unemotional, kind of. It's quite quite analytical thinking. He kind of reasons things. I can't really fully explain it, but you've got to expect that you will read this book from the boy's point of view rather than a really engrossing, emotional fiction type book. So it is really good, but you've got to have the right expectations before you go in. I gave this 4 stars when I first read it years ago, and I've given it 4 stars again this time. And then the last book that I read for, or shall I say I listened to for the Mental Healthathon, was All the Things We Never Said by Yasmin Rahman, and that was for the prompt YA mental health. And I didn't really know much about it before going in, other than it had suicidal ideation rep, or depression rep. And again, I wasn't really expecting anything major, but it was absolutely fantastic. And I personally would say that the experience I got from listening to the book as opposed to reading it would have been far better. And I've actually said to other people, if you were going to read this book, please listen to the audiobook, because what they've done is the intrusive thoughts that the girls in the book get, we as listeners hear them as whispers over the normal narrative. So it does kind of give you that kind of effect of having the intrusive thoughts and like this voice in the back of your mind constantly commentating negative things whilst you're trying to speak to people or or do things. And I thought that was fantastically, it was brilliantly done. And so we follow 3 teenage girls who all come from very, very different backgrounds. And for whatever reasons they've got, they all want to end their lives. So they randomly find this website individually, and it's a suicide pact website. So basically the girls kind of sign up, fill in a form, and they get matched to suicide partners. And so these 3 girls are brought together by this suicide pact website, and then we kind of follow them on these tasks that they are set in order to prepare for the date of death, basically. And we get to see the girls building relationships with each other and dealing with traumatic incidents in their lives and discovering why each of them are in the situation that they're in. I just think it was absolutely brilliantly written, and I think adults and YA, you would love it if that's the kind of thing that you want to learn about. So the rep in that is fantastic. I gave that 4 stars as well. And that's all the books that I've read so far for Mental Healthathon. I've still got, I think it's another 4 books on my list that I definitely want to get to before the end of the month. I have a feeling I'm not going to get to read one of the host picks. I just think I'm going to run out of time. But hopefully just giving you a bit of a recap over those books that I've read so far might give you some ideas for the books that you need to read. So thank you for listening, and I will do my next update at the end of the month once I've finished and see how everything goes. So stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye.